High in the frozen mountains of Tibet, where the winds carry ancient prayers across endless valleys, a spiritual tradition was born that would change Himalayan Buddhism forever. This was the Kagyu lineage, a tradition of meditation, discipline, mysticism, and direct spiritual experience. For nearly 1,000 years, its teachings have traveled from master to student, heart to heart, generation after generation. Its story begins in the 11th century, a time when Tibet was emerging from chaos. After the collapse of the Tibetan Empire, many monasteries had disappeared, sacred teachings were lost, wars and political struggles divided the land. But deep within the Himalayas, a spiritual revival had begun. Indian Buddhist masters still carried ancient wisdom, and Tibetan seekers traveled dangerous mountain routes searching for enlightenment. Among them was one extraordinary man, Marpa Lotsawa. Marpa was not born into luxury or royal power. He was born into a farming family in southern Tibet, but from childhood he possessed fierce determination and a hunger for spiritual truth. Unlike many monks, Marpa was not calm or gentle in appearance. He was strong, intense, and fearless. People later called him the translator, because he would become one of the greatest bridges between India and Tibet. At that time, India remained the heart of Buddhist learning. Its universities and meditation masters preserved teachings that had nearly vanished in Tibet. But reaching India was almost impossible. Travelers crossed deadly mountain passes, faced robbers, snowstorms, starvation, and disease. Yet Marpa risked everything. Again and again, he journeyed from Tibet to India in search of wisdom. The journey took months, sometimes years. Many travelers never returned. But Marpa continued forward, because he believed enlightenment was worth any sacrifice. In India, Marpa met one of the greatest Buddhist masters of the age, Naropa. Naropa had once been a famous scholar at Nalanda University, one of the greatest centers of learning in the ancient world. But despite his knowledge, Naropa realized intellectual understanding alone could not bring enlightenment. So he abandoned prestige and comfort. He became the disciple of a mysterious yogi named Tilopa. Tilopa was unlike ordinary teachers. He did not teach through books alone. He taught through direct experience, meditation, discipline, transformation. He believed enlightenment could be realized within one lifetime. Tilopa passed these profound teachings to Naropa, and Naropa passed them to Marpa. These teachings became known as the Kagyu tradition. Kagyu means the oral lineage, a living stream of wisdom transmitted directly from teacher to student. Marpa studied under Naropa for many years. He endured difficult tests, long meditation retreats, and intense spiritual practices. But eventually, Naropa recognized Marpa as a true successor. Marpa then carried these teachings back across the Himalayas to Tibet. There, the Kagyu lineage truly began, but the story of Kagyu cannot be told without speaking of one legendary figure, Milarepa. Perhaps the most beloved yogi in Tibetan history. His life was filled with tragedy, darkness, suffering, and ultimate transformation. Milarepa was born into a wealthy family, but after his father died, his relatives stole the family property. Milarepa, his mother, and sister were treated cruelly. Humiliated and desperate, Milarepa's mother demanded revenge. Driven by anger, young Milarepa learned black magic. According to legend, he used destructive powers against those who harmed his family. Many people died. And afterward, Milarepa became overwhelmed with guilt. He realized hatred had poisoned his soul, so he searched desperately for spiritual redemption. That search led him to Marpa. But Marpa did not accept Milarepa easily. Instead, he tested him severely. Marpa ordered Milarepa to build massive stone towers by hand, then destroy them, then rebuild them again, over and over. Milarepa suffered physically and emotionally. Sometimes he believed Marpa hated him, but the harsh training had a deeper purpose. Marpa was purifying Milarepa's past karma, destroying his ego, his pride, his attachment. Finally, after years of hardship, Marpa accepted Milarepa as his disciple. and Milarepa entered deep meditation retreats in isolated mountain caves. For years, he survived on almost nothing. Some stories say he ate only wild nettles, turning his skin green from malnutrition. But within those lonely caves, something extraordinary happened. Milarepa achieved realization. He transformed suffering into wisdom, darkness into compassion, and fear into enlightenment. Milarepa became famous across Tibet, not as a king, not as a warrior, but as a wandering yogi. He traveled through villages singing spontaneous spiritual songs. His teachings were simple yet powerful. He taught that enlightenment was possible for anyone willing to transform the mind, even sinners, even broken people, even those consumed by regret. Milarepa's life became proof that no human being is beyond redemption. The Kagyu tradition continued growing through Milarepa's disciple, Gampopa. Gampopa combined Milarepa's meditation teachings with monastic discipline. This created a strong spiritual system that allowed Kagyu Buddhism to spread throughout Tibet. Monasteries were built, meditation centers expanded, and students traveled from distant regions to study the teachings. Over time, different branches of the Kagyu lineage emerged. Among them were the Karma Kagyu, Drikung Kagyu, Drukpa Kagyu, Taklung Kagyu, and several others. Each branch preserved the same essential heart of the teachings, direct meditation experience leading toward enlightenment. One of the most famous figures in later Kagyu history was the Karmapa. The Karmapa became known as one of the first reincarnate Lama traditions in Tibetan Buddhism. Followers believed each Karmapa consciously chose rebirth in order to continue guiding living beings. The black crown of the Karmapa became a powerful spiritual symbol across Tibet. Pilgrims traveled enormous distances just to receive blessings from the Karmapa lineage. The Kagyu school became especially respected for meditation practice. Unlike traditions focused mainly on philosophy or rituals, Kagyu masters emphasized direct inner transformation. Meditation retreats lasting months or years became common. Practitioners isolated themselves in mountain caves and remote hermitages. They sought to understand the true nature of the mind. One of the central Kagyu teachings is Mahamudra, the Great Seal, a profound meditation system pointing directly toward the nature of consciousness itself. Kagyu masters taught that enlightenment is not something far away. The awakened mind already exists within every being. But ignorance, attachment, fear, and ego hide this truth. Through meditation, discipline, and wisdom, the mind can awaken. Life inside Kagyu monasteries was disciplined and demanding. Monks woke before sunrise, prayers echoed through temple halls, butter lamps flickered beside ancient statues, students memorized sacred texts, practiced meditation for countless hours, and learned compassion as the foundation of spiritual life. But Kagyu Buddhism was not limited to monasteries alone. Many practitioners became wandering yogis, living in caves high above the valleys. These yogis rejected luxury and comfort. Their goal was direct spiritual realization. The landscapes of Tibet deeply shaped Kagyu spirituality. Snow mountains symbolized purity. The vast sky represented limitless awareness. Silence became a teacher. Isolation allowed practitioners to confront the mind itself. Fear, loneliness, desire, anger, all became part of the spiritual path. Over the centuries, the Kagyu lineage survived wars, political upheaval, and enormous historical changes. Monasteries were destroyed and rebuilt. Teachers fled across the Himalayas. Sacred teachings were preserved through exile and hardship. Yet the lineage endured. Because Kagyu Buddhism was never only about buildings or institutions, it was about transmission, one awakened mind guiding another. Today, the Kagyu tradition continues throughout Tibet, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Ladakh, Europe, America, and many other parts of the world. Modern students still practice ancient meditation methods. Pilgrims still visit sacred caves connected to Milarepa. Monks still chant prayers passed down for centuries. And the stories of Marpa, Naropa, Tilopa, Milarepa, and Gampopa continue inspiring millions. Perhaps the greatest message of the Kagyu lineage is this: human beings can transform. No matter how much suffering exists, no matter how much anger, fear, or darkness fills the mind, awakening is still possible. This belief shaped the entire history of Kagyu Buddhism, a tradition born in the mountains, carried across generations, preserved through devotion, and sustained through direct spiritual experience. As the sun sets behind the Himalayas and prayer flags move gently in the cold wind, the ancient chants of the Kagyu masters continue echoing across the mountains, a timeless river of wisdom flowing from teacher to student, from heart to heart, across centuries. Pause. This was the story of the Kagyu lineage,